this.
Does that have a turn your voice lower?
Oh, I absolutely can accommodate. Yeah, 100%.
I love that. I need that. I need to get. Is that on like a little switchboard right next
Oh
to
yeah,
you?
yeah, it's right here on my Streamer X. Yeah, I've got a Rode Streamer X, and yeah. In fact, speaking of, my software may crash. It's been crashing today, and so you might lose me for a second, at least audio wise.
If you turn into robot Matt Lee, I'll hold the sentiment that AI is taking over, and
that's true. It's probably true.
Nah, Matt was probably
we love our AI
messing with some settings again. Well, we're live. Do you want to start by introducing yourself? I find that that's a safe place to start.
Yeah, man. Is the little bubble down there over there says I'm Matt Lee. I am a former MSP. I've actually been in a lot of different careers, but I was part of an MSP as break fix technician number 7, from under $1 million in revenue until we grew to 1,357, merged to be 28, 40, exited again at 600. I now mostly live my life in frameworks and security discussions. So thanks for having me.
The M stands for cyber.
Exactly. Like Mancy. M is in Mancy.
I am. I immediately thought of the Step Brothers part where they tried to smoke it, but I'm Connor. I've been on a couple of these. If you're watching, you probably already know who I am, but I am one of the founders of Phin, and I've known Matt for quite some time. Hardly the cybersecurity expert that he is. I don't have any acronyms after my name that we were talking about before this one, but maybe I could change that. I'll go get some search or something.
They're overrated.
And I've heard you say that before. I've also heard a lot of people who have them say that. So it's just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't spend all the money.
You know what's funny is there's a bit just tongue in cheek. It's like they're overrated. Learned all of the terms you had to learn to have all of the same conversations in a common way to make sure we understand. Oh yeah, it's totally trash.
Yeah,
but yeah, the trade-offs of not being practitioners at that point. You're just more theorists at that stage. But
I've also heard they're not useful at all. How'd you get your first job? It's like, okay, well, I went and I got this cert, and then it's just like, wait a second. Oh, but that's not the reason I got the job. It's like, are you really sure about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Today, the topic today, humans are not firewalls, and awareness alone isn't enough. So I guess a question to start off with that'll probably devolve into, I hope not screaming. We're usually good at not screaming at each other.
Yeah, no, we're good. Loud mic will be okay.
How does awareness training fall short?
So, like, if you think about CIS Control 14, it says train users. We're like, check, we're done. We read this sentence. We're out. Like, baller. Train users, space, so that, space, they report or recognize, space, and report security incidents. Means, like, in order to be successful at this, you don't just have to train your humans. You have to train your humans so that they can recognize things that are weird and report things that are weird. Those are steps in that order, right? And so I think the argument is, first off, we have failures in multiple stages there. The first one that comes to mind is exactly that. Like, how often are we actually testing to see if they are reporting things that are strange, have turned in things that were false reports that maybe they have reported because they were worried it was strange, right? Like an email, a phishing example, things of those nature. Okay. But the other thing I think that this starts from is social proof not being taken. How many times have you said, oh, look at Connor, he failed his phishing test, they got him, and everybody pokes him, right? We smile, we think it's funny. There's an interesting negative psychological impact to that, though. Right. One of the things that we like to think about when you're talking about social proof is this thought that if I dropped a human off in a culture that they're not familiar with, they spoke the language, that they would rapidly be doing all the things that culture does, standing in food lines, to eat for lunch at the cafeteria, right? They'd be going to church. They'd be doing all those things because they want to fit in as a human. The challenge first is that we often penalize the failure instead of saying, look at Connor, he didn't click the fish. Him and 85% of this company are crushing it right now. And half of you guys have turned in security incidents that you've seen. This is amazing. We're great. That kind of stuff. For like focusing on the positive outcome would be the piece that comes to mind. But even as you start then digging into the controls in CIS that cover this in 14, you start seeing that you get into, are we actually training in generalities? Or are we training in specifics? Like, it's easy on the things you teach about TTPs, right, Connor? Like, this is how they're going to SE you, that social engineer you. This is going to those are fairly, I think, easy for you to train on. But what about, like, how do I use this system and do this in this company, right? The whatever systems we might be using. And I got to pause and say, I'm going to get John good and drunk because AI is going to come into a big. All right, no, that's not fair. We got a lot of comments, so if we want to pause for a second, let's do this. We got Ashley Matley is just like, yeah, no, we're 100%. That's why we were separated at birth. Ashley Matley, 100%.
I love that. But the first thing Ben did was immediately Studio Ghibli. Or if you scroll up on, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't scroll up. Anyways. Yeah. So is it too early to start the drinking game? And then John Harden, yes, less than 10. My drink is still half full. You can still catch up. All right, cool. Caught up. Very good. Yeah, I digress. So those are the first pieces. And then what about the specific job role functions and things that are risky? And what I mean by that is there was this one medical case that I saw where they had a HIPAA finding that they had actually lost patient PHI, right? That they had a bunch of it given away, basically. And it was because they had taken a machine and disposed of it, and they didn't wipe the drive, which is already a failure. But secondarily, that machine was supposed to be a dumb terminal. All the stuff was being done in the software, printing directly from the software. But at some point, they didn't realize that the printing had broken, so they started saving stuff and then printing from the local machine in order to accomplish their goal, right, Connor? Like, because that's what people are going to do. They're going to solve their jobs. Nobody taught them that the way this is set up is something that is protecting them from that failure. And instead, now they have this failure, and it turned into a giant thing that they had to deal with, right? And so it's one of those where those are some of the things that come to mind when it comes to how we're failing. I don't know if you want to dig into any of those or push back or anything, but.
A little bit of a conversation we were having right before we went live was I think a lot of times awareness training, security awareness specifically, falls short because it has two roles. And if you don't, one is compliance, one is actually creating additional security. So like just being able to say we are, we are complying with everything that I know that CIS is not necessarily a compliance framework, but
we are complying. I'll roll with it. I understand the concept. Yeah.
We are complying with Control 14. It's like, oh, great. But then you're getting into, it's like, okay, but this very specific thing about this group of people that work in this specific way and use this specific tool, did you teach them that they should really look out for this?
Right.
That's not compliance, but that is security.
What a topic.
I guess we could all start drinking at that one.
Well, this is, well, the compliance for security, I actually made this a vetting question for another competition that's coming up with $1,000 prize that I was asked to judge. And this was one of the questions, like, describe the difference between compliance and security. And I'll describe it kind of like this in my mind. I've got two analogies that work well for this. One is like, you ever seen karate classes, like where you pay the taekwondo $49 a month? Every time you got to get a belt testing, there's $50, and then your kid moves up magically so that the economy works out and everybody makes money. And that taekwondo, would you say that you could go past the belt and not be good at fighting? Right? Is it possible to do those things and at least be good at the actions, but not necessarily be able to fight? Right? And so training for taekwondo to pass the belt versus training because some kid said he's going to whoop your butt on Thursday, right? Or next Thursday or every Thursday. Those are different training programs, right? Like they have same elements in them. You have to get in shape. You have to be able to do these moves. But one has this earnest of trying to do something on purpose and accomplish more so than the belt. And I'm not trying to demonetize martial arts in that way. But I just mean in general, if you're looking at security to meet a checkbox, for example, CIS 14 generally says train your employees at higher and once a year and be able to prove it right around these things. When you talk about a training program, that specificity, or, if other business conditions change, things of that nature. But ultimately, the point is, once a year, is that enough for it to stick? Like, really?
Right.
You can train your people one time a year. No other reinforcement, no other discussion, no other checking and governance to ensure that the outcome you're asking for is actually happening. That's it. We already know that's a farce. MSPs have been doing phishing testing for forever, right, Connor? I mean, at least whether the efficacy we'll get into here in a little bit, but
users pass the test map. Of course they're safe.
The other analogy I love using about the security versus compliance is this, and I used to use it in life insurance when I was a young man. I was an early licensed agent. But it was this. It's like, all right, we can calculate how much Connor's worth to your spouse over the lifetime of income, right? We could math that pretty good. That's, let's say, X million dollars, right? But then Mr. and Mrs. Spouse, how much is Connor worth if he gets hit by a truck while he's getting the mail on Sunday morning and it's a drunk UPS driver just swerving through the neighborhood, crashing through stuff and kills him? How much is he worth? 30 million. Great. One's how much he's actually worth. One's what we can calculate right now, right? Those are those delineations. You got to kick in between. Well, in cybersecurity, often the compliance is just meeting the checkbox, and that's like that bare minimum that has to be done to get there. But if you're looking at it in spirit to stop a threat actor, or if you're in a higher risk pool, or if you're in this case, like right now, where almost everyone is in a higher risk pool because the threat actors be threat actoring, right? And so you're in a situation where like you need to see how close to this number you can paint that works for your business, that helps move the world forward. And training is probably the biggest element. Almost everything's pivoting to social engineering attacks. Almost everything's pivoting to identity centric attacks, right? And so that combination means the training becomes this like real litmus test of your success when it comes to the threat actors in that regard, in my opinion.
One of the ways I've always thought about this is that compliance is an outcome, but security is a process. It's like it's not something you're actually ever finished. And one weird way that I've thought about this, I'm going to try and do the analogy live. So we're going to figure out, am I bombing in front of the audience or am I not?
Oh, let's do that. That's my favorite.
I forget, it might have been like Remember the Giants or something like that. It was some sports movie where the coach was giving a talk and he said, losers work hard and think they'll win. Winners work as hard as possible and then think that they're still going to lose. It's like you're not achieving, like, I have done all these things and as a result it's like I have achieved security is not something that security practitioners, at least a lot of that I talk to, that's not how they think about it. It's like, of course you could say we have done everything. I think you and I had this conversation. It's like there are two things you could do to make sure everything is secure. It's like implement everything and bankrupt the business and also get everyone off of all technology and back to tablets and cuneiform. But is that actually the outcome here? It's like there's a being aware of the risk, doing the amount of security that you actually should and implementing it properly and then measuring it. That's actually security. It's a process. It's not this outcome that you achieve and then you stop.
True. Yeah. And I think when businesses get that, this gets a lot easier too. Right. It's just more accepted of this is a process, y'all. Just like you have to deal with lockout, tag out before some dude rolls a concrete truck full of somebody in the back cleaning it. Right. You have these things that protect. And we've lived this magical era where technology wasn't seen as that akin to human life and business and function and economy. But now it pretty much is. And people are kicking sandcastles over, right? So we have to come up with the way to add this into our business process. Training not exceptional, exception from that, not an exception from that.
That makes sense. Next point we have here is moving from a reactive to a proactive awareness approach. How can we recognize risk on behalf of a human and do something about it?
Yeah. What are your thoughts there? You start us off on this one.
I think one of the ways, this is a comment that some awareness training folks, I'm incendiary, I guess, for some of my beliefs. Me, it's incendiary, the guy with the red hair. Come on, it just fits.
That's perfect.
And it's that I think if we spent as much time as possible educating users on all of the risk or all of the threats that they could possibly face. You brought up two today that are relevant to two different jobs. One is like rolling a concrete truck with a guy still in the back. The second was brought up beforehand, which was the MGM hack and social engineering and understanding when people are getting impersonated. If we spent as much time as possible teaching a human to recognize every possible risk that they could come into contact with as a result of their work, they would never get to their actual work. And one of the ways that I think about this is like, it is your security team's job to be aware of the risk that that could surround their business and their people. And even then, a lot of the planning and a lot of the processes and a lot of the security that you put in place is, but what happens if we weren't acutely aware of this risk? Are we still safe via a reasonable amount? And then, so anyway, recognizing risk.
And also added to that, to make sure you have to make it easier for users to do the right thing and harder for them to do the wrong thing first. To your point of, I can train people, but I could train them about every single risk. Well, what if I could instead reduce that number of those first and then train them on the ones that are poignant and there, right? Like, think of it this way. If I could take away whole classes of risk, right? And that's the way CISA approached that when talking about the, secure by design and secure by default conversation. One of those classes might be weak MFA. Yeah. If I, as a practitioner, first took away those options and had that to where they had to use things that were harder to attack, I don't have to train them about 3 or 4 different ways someone gets attacked now, because it won't happen, right? I don't have to worry about AITMs if they're using FIDO. I don't have to worry about some of those. So, but I will say with that caveat, after that, it really is, that's the only other thing we can do when it comes to human-based attacks and identity-based attacks. And there's a lot of conditions that have created that, right? When you think about, and I had this conversation the other day too, you have more identities probably in your browser than you do on your machine.
He's talking about
right?
me, guys. That's who he's talking
Maybe,
about right now.
maybe. And I might mean really different identities, your home one, your work this one, your other that one. And I've been doing a new kind of methodology where I take modern breaches and take pretty well written lies. I mean, I'm sorry, articles about them because they're all going to lie to some degree. And then you take those and try to build a kill chain out of them. You try to just say what happened first, what happened second, what happened third. You know, what do we think happened? Which pieces led to the demise of this entity? And one of the things I keep finding as a common element is 14.6 in CIS, which is training users to recognize and report security incidents, right? I think in one case, the Cisco 2022 compromise, the guy had been getting phishing and vishing and MFA prompts for 2 days, or at least they said several days. I believe at least 2 is all I can at least calculate out of several, but it might be 4. Like if you think your users are going to report that, we already see this in major corporations, they fail. So Connor, how do you get proactive? How do you find the riskier users, and then how do you train them first based on this, kind of premise?
I think it's a difficult thing, and I'll go back to a comment I'd made earlier about there are at least 2 possible outcomes for awareness training. One is compliance, and the second is security.
Sure.
2 goals. I don't want to say outcomes. 2 goals.
I like both.
And deploying one program and achieving both, like that's like you hit the whatever the thing from Ted Lasso, you hit the right darts, whatever.
Right.
I hit 3 triple 20s. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But I think if you were to actually create a security awareness training program from a security first approach, it would look exactly like you had said. You'd have to have somebody, a practitioner like myself, a practitioner like you, diving into the company. How does it work? How does it operate? How do its people communicate with each other? How does it generate money? It's like, all right,
sure.
we should start
maybe that one first.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one to protect on. I think that requires a lot of. I just described a ton of effort. I described several people's jobs of effort at a company of sufficient size. And as a result, it becomes much easier to just buy a solution, say, this is the training, send it off, I'm done. Like I got the CISO off my back. My team's happy because we're getting back to all the other stuff we want to do. And yeah, users will keep complaining. We'll send them some fishes that we think are fun. That's largely the thought process I've seen from a lot of programs.
If I can dream about what it becomes, I think you have the ability as things get normalized. Like think back 10 years ago, right? You had server 08, 8R2, 12, 12R2, 16, 19, force function 03, 08, 08R2, 12, 14, or 16, right? You had all this different variables. You were on virtualization hardware, this much disk space, this one. Now it's pretty much this API and that API. Right. And you know what the usual common denominator is? A UPN. Just a user's name, domain name, right? And mlee at pax8.com. Right, it becomes that identity extensibility into tons of different applications. Ash in the chat said, looking at AI and understanding how the browser is so risky could be made her aware, right? How much she learned in her AI journeys in this regard. But as you think about like what the future becomes, that also means we have a very normalized set of variables. I can see when a user's doing like things like you had said before this chat, like when they're sending sensitive files to their personal emails. What if I give them pop-up guidance that says, do you know you're probably stealing from the company? How are you feeling? Or have you realized you might be exposing and unintentionally data? Well, that's right there in 14. Now I'm actually doing it when they do an action. I'm now responding to them in some level of like tactile response that says, maybe you shouldn't do that, which will also help you learn more about your company because they might respond back with, I'm doing this because the other thing never works. I can't get this. Oh, cool. Let's fix that. Let's make that work. Let's stop making it hard for you to do the right thing and making it easier for you to do the right thing. Right. And I think that's one of the things where when you start looking for behaviors, it's easier now that the identity is getting more and more SSO centric or single sign-on centric. that's getting more and more able to get one set of logs that can look at a lot of actions across many different things, at least login actions, use actions, things of that nature. And you can start getting into being much better able to train in the moment. If we don't use Gmail and they're sending some files to Gmail, is that an external customer or is that their personal account? That's all for people in the security kind of awareness, not just awareness. I mean, the security and threat landscape, people that are doing EDR and are looking for that, and data loss and DLP. But training could respond to those things and could be pulled in as part of those failed actions. I don't know. That's my dream, I suppose.
One of the super pedantic examples that I've always brought up is most actual exfiltration of money, like when there is a successful cyber attack that leads to a company sending money to the malicious folks, is done using business email compromise that turns into banking or finance fraud.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
A trusted source, trusted, I'm air quoting, that it in turn is actually compromised.
Trust is ephemeral.
Yeah. Trust should, yeah. Zero trust is it's even in the tools that we already have access to.
I trust you, and even then it's ephemeral. Yeah. Very little, and even then it's ephemeral.
I trust you, and yet I'm still skeptical.
Yeah.
But most money is exfiltrated through like a simple request that says, "Hey, can you change this banking information?" It's like, wow. I remember looking at the DBIR, and it was some insane amount of money gets stolen through that. It's like, well, if this is the most common exfiltration method, geez, I can't talk, and we already have all the ability to detect any request of this type, it's like, why don't we just let a user know? Hey, not saying this is suspicious, but if money's going to get stolen from your company, it's going to be from this right here. Yeah. Did you call your supervisor? Did you review your wire transfer policy? Like, your wire transfer policy says you have to. Yeah. If you don't do these things, maybe you're going to lose your job or your company's going to go under. It's like, I wonder if just a simple, hey, we detected that this thing that could be a huge source of risk for your company is occurring. Yeah. Are you aware of that? And most users, I've talked with some users at like credit unions and stuff like that. I'm like, are you aware of this? They're like, well, I see fraud happen all the time from people walking in here, but like, I didn't connect that, like, that very specific request, that kind of request, legitimate or not, is how exfiltration is going to happen. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's like, I wonder if we sat down and even just you and I listed out, it's like, these are the 100 unique things that we could look at. It's like, what if we could just detect and let a user know, hey, that's a risk right there. Yep. That's how most money gets stolen. That's how most authentication.
Especially if you have the correct action programmed in. I mean, I think, Ash's mind's probably just going crazy right now, because the things you could automate through this could be even what do we have as expected behavior? They're going to use SharePoint in this way. Well, what do we have here? Okay, here's what it could guide. Hey, perhaps you're meaning to drag over here and right click here. Like, you know what I mean? You can see some very interesting guidance along that user interaction and immediate feedback modality. And you see this in factories too, right? Like, some of the biggest efforts for factory efficiency, like for manufacturing, at least when I was involved, was this data science and bringing more and more of the like diagrams right there at the part where they're going to see it, and the assembly instructions right there that pop up on this screen as they walk through the factory and have this to compare, so they can just actually get better at feeding back the user before they go down the line and break a machine or a head off or a part because it wasn't in spec, or right, that kind of stuff. And it's like animated hand gestures. Whatever, John. I'm now almost self-conscious. I don't know what to do with my hands. But you can see that same immediate feedback modality is valuable.
I tell you what, I don't even need to know. I know Ashley and John personally. I don't even need to know that they are your friends, because they've just immediately called out everything that you've then done on this webinar already. It's hilarious to watch from this side.
Oh man, yeah, I do.
John and Ashley got you down. If they need, like,
I'm me.
Generate a Matt Lee webinar bingo card. I'm pretty sure John could just train.
Oh, a huge water bottle. I'm empty, unfortunately. So it's a problem right now. So
I'm pretty sure they could use your voice and know enough about you to just impersonate you everywhere possible.
Hey, you know what? Go for it. Maybe save me having to do a lot of these, but just Matt rhetoric bot comes in, deep fake Matt.
What would Matt say about this? WWMD. What would Matt do?
One of the things that's funny, and I want to make sure if anybody's listening feels like they're behind because of some of these challenges, right? Or their workload might be behind or technically behind. I did a talk for Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 CISOs. There were like 124 of them there, give or take. And it was in Atlanta last year in April. And I did my talk about how to select an SMB by actually looking at their MSP. I don't want to get into the talk. It was kind of long and drawn out, but this one guy at the end raises his hand and he's like, "Hey, I'm a CISO of blah, blah, blah bank, right? Whatever." And he's like, "How do you measure success of phishing training?" And I was like, is this guy trolling me? Like, first off, that's a really basic question, but also deep if he means it that way, right? Like, is he just like teasing me? And he wasn't. And so I went in and I gave some thought to it. And I said, instead of measuring how good they are at not clicking the ones they've already identified for the last 500 times and know it's obviously that, measure how often they report a phish for something that is sus, that got through your spam filter, or things that are false positives. Why? Because at least they're freaking using it. And you now know that the things you did made them sus of things and click them. Am I allowed to use sus in that way? I'm like 43. Is that acceptable? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm too old for that.
I don't know.
But
I might be too old to be the person you should ask about that anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. But the point I'm trying to make is even massive companies and CISOs are struggling with this inability to really measure training when it comes to cybersecurity, in my opinion. And through my experiences with some in that space, it was kind of validating in the way, them asking those questions, I guess.
I get questions like that all the time. I also the certain folks, whether they're sometimes on HR or sometimes on the security team, talking about the quality of their training and phishing program. They're like, yeah, our users don't click on anything. Like, okay, can I look at your program real quick? Like, show me what you're phishing them with. It's like, do you guys use this tool? No, we use its direct competitor. It's like, huh. So if you send a phishing email to these people with a tool that they definitely know your company doesn't use because you've trained them on that, it's like, are you actually trying to phish these people with a way that's going to work? Or are you just,
yeah, that's that question. Is it adding some teaching, or is it literally just checking the box? Like, if you just want to prove that you did the training, like, we got 98%, nobody clicks, we're great. Yeah. One phishing email about Starbucks that's targeted at Bill in accounting, and boom, it's over.
Right, so it's the same comment you made with doing the yearly training, because that's all any framework has ever really required. It's like, did you survey the people that were involved 6 months later and say, hey, we have a couple of quick questions for you. Do you remember any of this? It's like, if they don't remember anything, it's like the goal of that training, while compliance is important, is to impact the behaviors that people take directly after that training and continuing on into the future. It's like, if you're not measuring for that, you're definitely not going to see it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's the point. Gone are the days where you can just, oh, were you watching the stream? Oh, Kat was watching the stream and she brought me water. Sorry, y'all. Water pause. Very
Ghostly.
cool. All right,
random detached hand comes into camera.
Yeah. Well, she's also doesn't want to be on this camera, so she's not going to walk across here either.
you were saying that right before we started.
Yeah, no, I tease. Ash said human relatable mentality, humans be humans, yo. Yeah, and that's kind of the point. Like, you got to meet people where they are, and help them understand what their impact is to the business. And I think also, to your point, you made a really good point of, like, you could tell people about all the things and eventually you just get blind to it, right? Like, how many of you have looked at a new hammer? Okay, it's got a warning on it. It says, do not hit yourself in the head. Injuries may occur. Like we're just blind to that now. Like, but you generally know not to hit yourself in the head with a hammer. We haven't made that stage in technology. We're still in this kind of virgin age where, I mean, you cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. And maybe I'm going to be one of those old curmudgeons 50 years from now, if I'm even alive, there being the same level of Swiss cheese horse shittery that exists in our technology today. You can hang yourself 700 ways from Sunday in technology, right? It's easy to trick humans because I got a billion rocks to pick up and hit you with, right? So the problem is we often in more maturing industries deal with that. We have what, 50,000 CVEs by half the year? That's good code. That's okay, right? Yeah. Like, come on. Oh. So I feel like this is a challenge because of the proximal newness and nascence of it, right? That won't be the same challenge in 50 years. We won't have to teach people the same way. Anyways, I can go off on a tangent on that one.
This comment that John put up here. Why didn't you is that I remember it might have been you telling me the story of, like, I hovered my hand over the reset button on the server, but I promise I didn't touch it. It's like, It's like, wait a second, wait a second. It's like the server was reset. I told you not to press the button, and now you're telling me you didn't press it, but you did hover your finger over it for
I love
just
job
a minute.
technologies. Why didn't you tell me to back up when I hit factory reset?
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
There was a funny story. I think I think a comment. I'll bring up Ashley's comment right here. It's something that I always say. I actually stole this from a buddy of mine, Jason Hanek. Is like if your security, if your cybersecurity program is so vulnerable and so fragile that a single human clicking a single thing could unravel the entirety of the security program that you built and deployed. It's like you've almost made this purposely fragile. It's like it's almost like you're like just waiting for the user to mess up, and you're sitting right on the other side of that screen. You're like, I can't wait to just blame these guys.
I don't know. I don't know if it was like I like to go to Hanlon's razor for this, right? Never attribute to malice what could easily be attributed to ignorance or incapability. Right. And I'm probably bastardizing that. So if anybody wants to make fun of me misquoting Hanlon's razor, I apologize.
It's do not attribute malice to action when ignorance will do.
Yeah, fair. That works. Yeah. So the point being is when you think about this is like oftentimes people used to just wire houses until they realized that the open wires hanging on spools caught fire and we needed to put them in Romex, right? Like things just mature and we get better at this and make them less fragile. So I don't know that people designed them that way. But I will say that people haven't been doing the things necessary to be broad enough, deep enough, efficacious enough, contextually aware enough to be successful at stopping the actors today at the speed at which they act. And working within Swiss cheese for tech that we talked about before makes it super easy. Oh, new POC. Now I got 12 new victims. Like that just shouldn't happen. Like we don't release new car POCs every year that kill people in a large number. At some point, you test cars and you know how you should build them in the ways not saying there's not problems, but we get to a limited number of deaths that's acceptable, right? And we haven't hit that curve yet in technology for sure. So yeah, the best thing you can do is train your humans and measure how they report things. And yeah. Anyways.
There's some version of a trolley problem that exists around this. It's like you divert the trolley and nothing changes. You divert you don't divert it and everything changes. You're like, wait a second, I don't know.
Yeah.
On Ashley's comment about AI, how you mentioned 50,000 CVEs by mid-year. Do you think that goes up with the prevalence of vibe coding?
Oh Lord. Oh, I don't know. I'm not educated enough to weigh in on that. I wouldn't be able to look at code from AI and say it's terrible. I can see the rhetoric that's going around, but that's probably a better Jason Slagle question than mine.
Dang. I should have made him. I should have asked him this beforehand. I mean,
sorry, like I don't often back away from the question. It's just not my expertise, unfortunately.
Let it be known on this day, Matt Lee said, I can't answer that.
All my new quizzes from people will all be about Control 16 now, right? They're like, Matt, what's the effective first step in a modern CI/CD pipeline security process? I'm like, oh God.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'm out.
I don't know either, but I have seen several Twitter thread or X threads, whatever, on it's like, so I vibe coded so hard I put all of our secrets in the public repository.
Yeah.
Ooh, like ooh. I even know you shouldn't be doing that one.
That's a bad one. I think we have something like we're going to announce or something, right? Something really neat, I think was the goal. And we've bantered really good about the challenges in cybersecurity, I think, or really well would be more English proper. But
we do. I have no idea if Amanda has something to show on screen, but I can at least announce it right now. So Phin and PAX 8 and the chain smokers. Yes, the chain smokers, not people that sit outside your 7-Eleven and
smoke cigarettes one after the other in some form, or light them tip to tip. Not those guys.
Yeah. Chain smokers, the premier, I don't even know what the music group. They'd probably hate the description. We're doing a giveaway. We're doing a giveaway. So the Phin partner through the PAX 8 marketplace that deploys the most seats will get a private meet and greet, tickets, backstage passes to see the chain smokers in Las Vegas. All expenses paid. We're gonna pay for the flights, the hotel, everything.
That's
actually
epic.
It's available to certain PAX 8 employees as well. I don't know that you'd qualify, but
I do not. But I don't want to qualify. I'm not a sales guy. I don't ever want that on me. I'm a subject matter human.
So yeah, that's the announcement that we were going with, and I believe there's a bunch of announcements about it coming out right after.
When does it start and when does it end for the partners? Like, don't sandbag. That's not what this is about. Yeah. When does it start?
It started technically 2 days ago, I believe, unless Amanda wants to put it.
Oh,
I
April
see
through
it.
the end of June.
April through
Okay,
the end
so
of June.
April through
Q2.
June. So anybody watching, if you're cutting to this later, if this is maybe in some other promo that pulls out, PAX 8 and Phin have partnered up to bring you a pretty awesome chain smokers, right, experience, including flights, including bringing you there for VIP backstage passes. I think they said they'll marry you since they're in Vegas. Am I missing that? Maybe I misspoke on
We
that.
can definitely ask. I don't know if any of them were ordained, but we can talk about it for sure.
I tease. It's going to be an awesome experience. And also, I believe if it's in the org of your partner and you're an MSP that's going down that path, you could really help out your person that you work with, your account manager and partner at PAX 8, and wind up having them win the experience too, right, Connor? I think that's the other aspect of this that's pretty awesome for any of our internals.
Oh, absolutely. We wanted to get the PAX 8 team involved as well.
Y'all are so cool. That's awesome. I've caught one of their concerts, actually. Kat and I went to one in Kansas, and we were down on the floor, just out there. It was pretty good. It was pretty awesome. We'd heard the music before, but I had never really been a huge fan. But man, the show was fantastic. So I imagine they're Vegas. Isn't it a Vegas residency? Is that correct?
Yeah, they have a bunch of shows in Vegas all year long.
I've
so that was
never
another
felt
thing.
like an older man than how I just described that, right? Like
Residency?
you're like, well, no, you even before you're like, well, they're a music group. That newfangled music, that EDM stuff. I'm not sure what it falls under.
You need that voice to be one of the voice changers that you had.
Yeah, because I've only got
this one right now, which is
Yeah.
pretty good. So,
And then this one, so I gotta get that one.
one for sure.
Oh, that would be fun. You could be the next Kit Boga.
Oh, that's awesome.
But hey, you do call yourself old all the time, but I dare say if you went to a Chainsmokers concert and it was amazing, I don't think you're the curmudgeon-y old man you describe yourself to be.
It's true. The jade is starting to seep into my heart. It hasn't really gotten all the way through there, right? Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was a couple of years ago too, so it was earlier in their career, but yeah, really cool. It's gonna be an awesome promotion. See how not sales guy I am? Like that was my best hype I could come up with. I don't know. Anyways,
That was pretty. I mean, it's like, is the person delivering the message the hype, or should the message be the hype? I think the message should be the hype.
that's it. The message is the hype in this sitch, I think.
Don't you want to go backstage, meet the Chainsmokers?
Go train your people.
Yeah.
Go get a cool concert. Like winning? #winning. Yeah. So for sure.
A 2-for-1 special that's not a lie. We'll call it that.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't know of a better way to close this thing out though, brother, but if you don't have a training program or you're not measuring the effectiveness of a training program, you look at the CrowdStrike threat report that just came out. I mean, it was all malwareless, pivoting to social engineering, pivoting to vishing, pivoting to token theft, pivoting to device registration attacks and abuse, pivoting to all the juicy ways you can beat your users to death if the systems aren't set up to defend against it and the humans aren't trained as well. So yeah, start a program, even if it's just a presentation of some sort. But yeah.
It is one of the most economical, the biggest bang for your buck is to just train your people in any effective manner. Do it more than once a year. Make it relevant to their role at the company. Just those two things. Spend 10 minutes thinking about what that would mean for your organization. You're going to be further ahead than most. You're also going to be getting much more security per dollar spent than the average, because it's where most attacks are coming from these days. It's easier to get a human than it is to exploit 0 days, I guess. Like I said, maybe not with vibe coding. I'll do some research on that. Maybe we'll have a good talk about vibe coding a month from now or something.
Okay. Fair.
But sweet. I don't know how to end this, but it was great talking to you. And Ashley,
always.
John, other John, thanks for joining.
Thanks for all you do.
else.
So
Oh yeah, I'll wait for Amanda to end the stream. But it was good.
You got to click the button up top.